One humid evening, in the crowded streets of Oshodi, Lagos, where the air hummed with the relentless rhythm of survival, 13-year-old Chukwudi roamed barefoot, his tattered shirt clinging to his thin frame. His eyes, wide and searching, held a quiet defiance, as if daring the world to break him further. As he scavenged for scraps near a restaurant, he overheard a group of nurses from St. Nicholas Hospital, just a kilometer away, talking about a billionaire in a coma. Chief Adebayo Ogunleye, a billionaire titan of Nigeria's oil industry, had been unresponsive for 3 years after a stroke. His family, desperate for a miracle, had flown in doctors from London and New York, but nothing worked. Chukwudi, now nibbling on a piece of yam, listened as one nurse whispered about a strange rumor, that music, the right kind, could sometimes stir a sleeping mind. The idea lodged in his heart like a seed. Orphaned at 8 after a fire claimed his parents in their small Alarbar market shop, Chukwudi had been passed from one relative to another, each home colder than the last. Whispers followed him like shadows, accusations that he was a witch, a bad omen, the reason for every misfortune that befell his family. His uncle in Ajegunlel had beaten him senseless, claiming his presence caused a failed business deal. His aunt in Surulere blamed him for her daughter's illness. By 12, he was cast out, left to fend for himself on the streets. But Chukwudi had a gift. His voice, so piercing, when he sang, was like a river breaking through stones. He sang to himself under the Oshodi Bridge at night, where the homeless gathered, their fires flickering against the concrete pillars. His melodies, drawn from half-remembered hymns his mother once sang, silenced even the roughest street boys. They called him Angel Voice, though they mocked him too, for what use was a heavenly voice in a hellish world? As Chukwudi watched the nurses walk further away, he felt a strange stir, but he had no plan, only a spark of hope. The next morning, he slipped through the crowded Oshodi market, dodging traders and their sharp tongues, and made his way to St. Nicholas Hospital. The gates were imposing, guarded by some stern-looking security guards. Chukwudi, small and ragged, with his head high, approached one of them named Musa, assumed to be their leader. "Please, sir, I want to sing for Chief Ogunleye," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Musa laughed, a harsh bark. "You? A small street rat? You think this is a church choir? Leave at once." But Chukwudi didn't move. He opened his mouth and sang, a Yoruba song, soft at first, then swelling with a power that seemed too big for his frail body. The notes floated, pure and piercing, drawing the attention of passers-by. Even Musa froze, his baton half raised. A nurse, overhearing from the hospital entrance, hurried over. "Who are you?" she asked, her name tag reading, Helen. "Chukwudi, ma. I heard Chief Ogunleye needs music to wake up. I can sing for him." Helen hesitated. The hospital was under pressure, Chief's family was losing patience, and the media was circling like vultures, eager for a story of failure. Against her better judgment, she led Chukwudi inside, promising nothing but a chance to be heard. In the sterile, air-conditioned ward, Chief Ogunleye, with an oxygen mask over his face, lay motionless on the hospital bed, connected to tubes and surrounded by blinking machines. His daughter, Temi, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, stood by his bedside, her face etched with exhaustion. She barely glanced at Chukwudi when Helen brought him in, dismissing him as another nobody desperate beggar. But Helen insisted, and Temi, too tired to argue, shrugged. Chukwudi stood at the foot of the bed, closed his eyes, and let his voice rise. He sang a song his mother had taught him, an Igbo lullaby about a river that carried dreams to the stars. The room seemed to hold its breath. Temi's eyes widened as the monitors beeped faintly, a subtle change in Chief's heart rate. It wasn't a miracle, but it was something. For the first time in 3 years, there was a flicker of response. Temi, pragmatic and skeptical, didn't believe in miracles, but she saw an opportunity. "Come back tomorrow," she told Chukwudi. "Sing again." Word spread quickly. By the end of the week, Chukwudi was a hospital fixture, singing daily for Chief Ogunleye. Nurses whispered about the street boy with the angel voice. Visitors recorded him on their phones, and clips began circulating on social media. A local blogger dubbed him the Lagos Miracle Boy. Temi, ever the strategist, saw potential beyond her father's recovery. She offered Chukwudi a deal: food, a bed in the hospital staff quarters, and a small stipend to keep singing. Chukwudi, who had never known such stability, agreed without hesitation. But not everyone was pleased. Chief's younger brother, Femi Ogunleye, a cunning man with political ambitions, saw Chukwudi as a threat. The family's wealth was tied up in trusts controlled by Chief, and Femi had been quietly siphoning funds, assuming his brother would never wake. A recovered Chief would ruin everything. Femi began digging into Chukwudi's past, contacting his relatives in Ajegunle and Surulere, who eagerly revived the old accusations of witchcraft. Femi's whispers reached Temi's ears, sowing seeds of suspicion. Was Chukwudi's voice truly a gift, or was there something sinister at play? Torn between her growing affection for Chukwudi and her family's paranoia, Temi began to watch him closely, her trust wavering. Meanwhile, Chukwudi's fame grew. But he didn't want fame, he wanted a family, a home. One rainy afternoon, as Chukwudi sang a new song, a blend of Yoruba and Igbo folk melodies, Chief Ogunleye's fingers twitched. Then his eyes fluttered open. The room erupted in chaos. Nurses rushed in, Temi gasped in anticipation, and doctors scrambled to confirm the impossible. Chief was awake, weak but lucid, asking for his daughter and water. The news hit Lagos like a tidal wave. Newspapers splashed Chukwudi's face across their front pages, calling him a hero. But the joy was short-lived. Femi, enraged and determined to eliminate any threat to his schemes, confronted Temi, accusing her of bringing a witch into their family. He produced a dossier, filled with testimonies from Chukwudi's relatives. Temi, shaken, banned Chukwudi from the hospital, fearing for her father's safety. Chukwudi was devastated. He returned to the streets, his dreams of belonging shattered. But the streets were no longer safe. He moved to Bardagri, a coastal town where his demoralized mother had once lived, hoping to disappear. In Bardagri, he found refuge in a small church, where Pastor Ezekiel, a kind but weary man, took him in. The pastor recognized Chukwudi's talent and encouraged him to sing for the congregation. The church became a sanctuary, but Chukwudi's heart remained heavy. He missed the hospital, Temi, and the sense of purpose he had felt singing for Chief. Back in Lagos, Chief Ogunleye, now recovering, demanded to see Chukwudi. Temi, guilt-ridden but cautious, hesitated. Femi, however, saw his chance. He showed the dossier to Chief, branding Chukwudi a fraud and a witch. The story exploded, turning public opinion against the boy. In Bardagri, Pastor Ezekiel shielded Chukwudi from the media storm, but the boy felt betrayed by the world. He stopped singing, his voice silenced by despair. Then, a mysterious woman arrived at the church, claiming to be a journalist named Amaka. She offered to tell Chukwudi's side of the story, promising to clear his name. Desperate for redemption, Chukwudi agreed to an interview. But Amaka was no journalist. She was Femi's agent, sent to lure Chukwudi back to Lagos. She convinced him to return, promising a meeting with a sympathetic media house. But on the bus to Lagos, Amaka drugged his water, and Chukwudi awoke in a dark, abandoned warehouse. Femi stood before him, his face twisted with malice. "You've caused enough trouble," Femi snarled. "My brother's awake, but you're still a problem." Chukwudi, bound and terrified, refused to beg. Instead, he sang a defiant, trembling Christian hymn rock of ages. The sound unnerved Femi's men, and in a moment of distraction, Chukwudi broke free, sprinting into the night. He hid in a slum, where a kind woman named Mama Gozi took him in, hiding him from Femi's search. Mama Gozi, a retired nurse with connections to St. Nicholas Hospital, recognized Chukwudi from the news. She contacted Helen, the nurse who had first brought him to the hospital. Helen, furious at Temi's betrayal, smuggled Chukwudi back into the hospital to confront Chief Ogunleye. In a tearful reunion, Chukwudi sang again, and Chief, now stronger, was stunned to the bone. This same melodious voice had brought him out from coma. Not long, Chief's recovery revealed Femi's financial misdeeds. Temi, torn between loyalty to her family and justice, exposed Femi's crimes to the police. But Femi fled, becoming a fugitive. Meanwhile, Chukwudi's story caught the attention of a philanthropist, Alhaji Abdul, who funded a proper recording of his music. His first album, The Voice of Hope, became a national sensation. Temi, seeking forgiveness, offered Chukwudi a home with her family, but he chose to stay with Mama Gozi, who adopted him as her son. Femi, however, wasn't done. From hiding, he orchestrated a final attack, planting a bomb at Chukwudi's album launch concert. A vigilant security guard, Musa from the hospital gate, thwarted the plan, saving hundreds of lives. Femi was arrested, his empire crumbled. Years later, Chukwudi, now a global music star, returned to Oshodi to open a shelter for street children. His voice, once a whisper under a bridge, now echoed in stadiums worldwide. Chief Ogunleye, fully recovered, became his mentor, funding his charitable work. Temi and Chukwudi rebuilt their bond, not as family but as friends. But the past never fully fades. A letter arrived from Amaka, Femi's agent who pretended being a journalist, now in prison, begging for forgiveness. Chukwudi, torn, chose to forgive but not forget. His latest song, The River Still Flows, became an anthem of resilience, a testament to a boy who turned pain into hope, betrayal into redemption, and a heavenly voice into a legacy that awakened a nation.